People have known that The Acolyte would be a huge failure for Disney and Lucasfilms ever since it was first announced, and Disney Star Wars is no exception. Particularly with regard to these Disney Plus streaming series, we have disaster after disaster, flop after flop, failure after failure, especially when it comes to these Disney Plus streaming shows. The Acolyte, however, has smashed records. We've never witnessed such animosity toward any of these products. The trailer they released a week ago for May 4th, it's a disastrous 150,000 downvotes to less than 70,000 likes. That's nothing compared to the first trailer we got for the 700,000 dislikes on that thing. And of course, what else do you expect from Star Wars fans? Because what have they been told about this time after time? That it's all about identity politics, that it's not about respecting Star Wars, about celebrating Star Wars. Instead, it's all about diversity and inclusion and representation. And we've been told that from the cast, from the crew, from the showrunner, Leslie Hayden herself, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. And now, once again, we're getting news about The Acolyte that's really just a slap in the face to actual Star Wars. But it shouldn't be surprising. Next Star Wars showrunner confirms Disney is moving away from one George Lucas idea. Oh, what one just one idea that you're moving away from? Disney is completely stupid when it comes to the way that they actually view the Force. Star Wars The Acolyte will move further away from George Lucas's original ideas. The Acolyte offers a fresh take on the Force, emphasizing balance between light and dark, diverging from traditional Star Wars lore. Let's look at this interview. Hedlund expressed her intention for The Acolyte to redefine the concept of balance in the Force, indicating the departure from the traditional interpretations. And by interpretations, we mean what George Lucas said and meant to define the concept in the first place. Quote, honestly, the way I look at it is there is no light without darkness, no good without bad. So to me, and this might just be a personal thing, I'm going to stop you right there. It can't be a personal thing. You're not coming and doing your personal thing. You're part of a franchise that started nearly 50 years ago. You dumb idiot anyway, might just be a personal thing. They say here that the Force is about balance. It's not just a Marvel superpower. The Force sensitive aren't using telekinesis because they special powerful people. It's funny how you say Force sensitive when we just watch Ahsoka, where anybody can have the Force, there's no such thing as for sensitive blah blah blah. Then they say it's because they've achieved balance. As Yoda says, my ally is the Force. So the idea of a separation from that was interesting. If you're unbalanced, the Force cannot protect you well. Is that really what it is? Or did George Lucas make the Force sound like something else entirely? Did balance mean something else entirely different for George Lucas? And the truth is, yes, it absolutely did. But what George Lucas is about to explain is that it's not about having the same amount of light as there is dark being balance. In fact, it's more of a kind of Eastern type of way to think about it in terms of like Buddhism or whatever, where you're talking about balance is essentially like being whole within, and anytime you introduce anything that's chaotic, anything that throws off that internal balance, you come out of balance, right? So being in the light completely is in balance. Anything that's dark throws you out, and that's what George Lucas defined the Force as, by the way. Let's listen to him.
I mean, you got the dark side, the light side. One is selfless, one is selfish. And you want to keep them in balance. What happens when you go to the dark side is it goes out of balance, and then you get really selfish and you forget about everybody, and you ultimately lead yourself, because when you get selfish, you get stuff, or you want stuff. Mm-hmm. And when you want stuff and you get stuff, then you are afraid somebody's going to take it away from you, whether it's a person or a thing or a particular pleasure.
What he's saying is, once you go to the dark side, you get out of balance, right? We're not talking about equal. You need to be just as selfless as you are selfish in order to be in balance. It's obviously not what he's talking about. It's not what we've seen from anything in Star Wars, right? He's talking about when you have the absence of darkness, that's when you're talking about balance. As soon as the dark side creeps in, as soon as you start walking down that path at all, you're throwing off that balance, right? Balance in the Force was not achieved when there was like 2 Siths and 2 Jedi, as Freddie Prinze Jr. tried to explain. That's just stupid. No, the Force is not in balance until Darth Vader, essentially was redeemed and brought back to the light, and threw Emperor Palpatine down that shaft. That's when the Chosen One fulfilled the prophecy and brought balance to the Force, the ABS of darkness. And it seems like nobody who actually works at Lucasfilm understands that or wants to understand that anymore. So on top of all the woke, ridiculous crap that we see time and time again coming from Disney Star Wars, especially coming from this specific project from the cast, the crew, the showrunner, everybody now, if you just needed any more reason to know that this thing's going to be a gigantic pile of fresh turd, just read the headlines, right? The showrunner admits that they're moving even further away from the idea of George Lucas's Star Wars. Well, good luck with that.